Today we're going to be talking about the first-time home buying process. And if you've never been through this process before, it's both exciting and nerve-wracking. So the point of today is to go over the steps in the first-time home buying process. And today we have a special guest with us, Natalie Pacikovich from Group Sutton Performer. So I'm going to talk about the mortgage side and the financing side, whereas Natalie's going to talk about the fun part, which is the actual house shopping. So let's get started. So the first thing when you want to purchase your first home, it's so important, I can't reiterate it enough, get a mortgage pre-approval. One thing that I want to make clear is sometimes people, especially if you haven't been through the process yet, there's a big difference between a mortgage pre-qualification and a mortgage pre-approval. A mortgage pre-qualification takes no time at all. You could get one within a few minutes. And essentially, in simple terms, it's basically kind of a guess of how much you could afford when it comes to a mortgage. Most lenders, if you go on their website, you could get a mortgage pre-qualification letter in less than 15 minutes. This is not a mortgage pre-approval. All it is just a general idea of how much you could qualify for based on the information that you've provided. There's no credit check, there's no verification of your documents or the information you've given. It's basically just an estimate. Whereas a mortgage pre-approval, if you've been through one, you know you've been through one because it's a little bit painful. As a mortgage broker, I'm going to ask for all your documents, your proof of ID, your proof of down payment, your proof of income, or your proof of employment. And we do a credit check and we verify the information you've provided to make sure that you can actually qualify for this amount. That is the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. I strongly suggest, especially now with the interest rates being so volatile, I strongly suggest to everybody who is shopping around to not only get a mortgage pre-approval, but also to secure a rate because of interest rates being so volatile. So it's very important to get that mortgage pre-approval. This is probably the biggest purchase you're ever going to make in your life. And honestly, what's the point of going shopping if you're not even quite sure of how much you're approved for? And from experience, I find, and Natalie, I'm sure you can add to this, I find that people feel that they qualify for more than they actually qualify for. So get your mortgage pre-approval. Your realtor is going to be so thankful. And with this, we'll go to the second part. Once you get your mortgage pre-approval, now you could go house shopping. And hopefully, with the help of a realtor, Natalie, I'll pass the floor over to you to talk about the exciting part of purchasing your first home.
Yes. So first thing you should do is find a realtor because nowadays it's very recommended to have a buyer's realtor next to you who will be there to help you and guide you and who will represent your best interest in the transaction. That realtor can set up a search for you on Centris. The difference between the one that you do yourself on Centris is that the realtor will see what you see. And if you like a property, the realtor can see it too. Your realtor will have access to way more documents that you can see. Behind that screen, what we can see is like all the documents that were attached by the listing broker to that property. So we can already pre-screen whatever you like. So we can check any documents that's attached. We can check the seller's declaration and check if there's anything major going on in that property. And we can already tell you if it's worth going to see it or not, so you don't lose your time. If it's a condo association, we can see many more documents that are linked to the condo association. So we can already maybe access their budget, their meeting notes, anything that's valuable and that can help us realize if this is a good, well-managed property or not. So that's the first thing you do. You choose a realtor, you set up that search, you tell the right criteria to your realtor, and you start looking at what's going on in the market. Then the fun part arrives, which is visiting properties. Do not feel bad to ask your realtor to set up visits for properties. This is his job. A realtor's job is to go with you to every single visit. So this is important because you shouldn't be going to any of these houses on your own. Otherwise, you cannot be represented by your realtor. Your realtor should be there. He should see what you're seeing, and he's there to help you realize if there's anything wrong with the property. We do that every day, so we can look at it differently than you. So do not hesitate to call your realtor to set up those visits. while you're visiting. Your realtor will get to know you better, to know what you like or dislike, and it will help your realtor adjust the criteria and maybe the search, so we're looking at the right things all the time. Imagine you find a property, and I forgot to mention, but Lynn said it before, of course we want a pre-approval, because imagine we find the right property and you want to put an offer in. It's extremely important to have the letter of pre-approval with your offer, so the seller knows that you can actually afford the property. When we're ready to put in an offer, then the realtor is there to draft it for you. Your realtor can help you understand which price you should put on your offer, what condition, which clauses we should put, and depending on where the property is located and what we're looking at, the realtor can adjust all of these things for you. For example, it can be like an inspection for a water well, like the quality of the water, or it could be certain documents that are missing in the listing, and your realtor thinks it's very valuable to have and to see before you actually finalize the transaction. So all of these things are important, and your realtor can really suggest you what should be done or not. When it comes to the price, the realtor can show you comparables of recent sold properties that are very similar, and he can also help you realize if we're in a multiple offer situation. He can help you realize maybe around which price it will land and what you should do. But at the end of the day, this is your money, this is your choice. Your realtor is just there to help you. There shouldn't be any pressuring. You should be doing this, completely happy, and you just need to understand what's going on. That's our job. At the end of the day, the special price is the price that makes you happy if you get the property at that price. And if you do not get it, you're not disappointed because you went to the top of your price. Then imagine your offer is accepted. After that, we have to lift all the conditions linked to that offer. And most probably there will be an inspection and a financing and any other tests that have to be done. But let's focus just on the financing and the inspection, because these two are the most popular ones that we should be lifting. Usually the inspection is done within the first 7 days after an offer is accepted, and the financing around 14 days, which means that as soon as your offer is accepted, your realtor makes you sign it, so you acknowledge reception of the answer from the seller, and that document goes straight to your mortgage broker, who can open the file and start working on it. We do not want to lose any day around that period. I would say that when we are lifting conditions, this is the most stressful time for buyers. Why is that? It's because there is a deadline, and there's always a slight risk, but the risk is there that if you don't submit the final letter from the bank, or if you don't do your inspection on time, then you might lose your house, and you don't want this to happen to you. So inspection first within the first 7 days. You book an inspector as ASAP. He's going to take around 2 days to prepare a report for you. And what's important is to be at the inspection. Why is that? Because you want to hear what the inspector is going to say. You want to go through the property and understand how the property functions and how everything is going. Normal tear and wear for property is okay. There will always be some, and the report will state everything that the inspector saw. Imagine you're not at the inspection and you read the report a few days later, you might freak out, because the report is made to highlight what's wrong with the property. But if you were there at the inspection, walking through the house with him, you would understand everything, because he would explain it to you in a way that is less scary, because finally, he can explain you how it functions and how it can be adjusted or assessed. So when you read the report, you will understand better what it says. But if you were not there, for sure you're going to freak out, because you can see red everywhere and you think, what's wrong with this house? So very important to be at the inspection. When you get the report, then read it carefully, ask questions to your inspection, ask your realtor for any help, and you can decide what to do with that. You can decide, for example, that you're happy with the inspection. You can decide that you want to adjust the price because there's too many things that need to be addressed that you were not aware of when you were visiting. You can ask the seller to fix certain things that are urgent before you actually take possession, or you can just walk away from the transaction. Now, when it comes to the financing, as I said, first thing first, your offer is accepted. You send the documents to your mortgage broker. The mortgage broker will open your file, start the process right away, and for sure, they will need documents, updated documents that will be needed for the bank to get the final approval. You do not want to lose time. You do not want to lose 3, 4, 5 days gathering those documents. You need to work on them ASAP as soon as your offer is accepted. And why is that? Because during those 14 days where you're lifting that condition, any day that you lose might be critical at the end of the process, because it's out of your power to get the final letter from the bank. It's up to them, and if they are overloaded with other offers, you just have to wait for it. And you do not want to be at the bottom of a pile waiting for it at the end of your 14 days, freaking out, am I going to get this on time or not? So my main advice is do not wait, gather those documents right away, and be available. Many people sometimes put offers on a house, and then they need to go somewhere on a weekend somewhere, like maybe fishing up north, or maybe on a vacation trip with the family, and they're not available for a few days because they don't have internet or they cannot be reachable. This is not the time not to be reachable, because you need to provide these documents on time, otherwise you might lose your transaction. So be available, answer the calls, and provide everything that your mortgage broker needs.
I just wanted to add to that, to go back to the mortgage pre-approval. If you have a mortgage pre-approval, usually it's faster because I'll just need your updated documents. But if you're making an offer on a property and you're coming without a mortgage pre-approval, I could tell you from experience, I still haven't had a single client come to me with an accepted offer who doesn't have a mortgage pre-approval, who has all their documents in order. Even the most organized person, you might have access to all your documents, but just human nature, you don't send everything to your mortgage broker. We need everything right away. So if you have a mortgage pre-approval, it's a lot easier. But if you don't, then you have to send all the documents literally within a few hours so that we get the process right away, because you don't want to end up in a situation where we're on day 14, still waiting for that final approval. It's extremely stressful. Both you and I have been through that before. It's stressful for everybody.
Exactly. So these are the main advice when it comes to lifting the conditions. Do it on time. Make sure you do it ASAP, like you avoid the big stress that comes with it. Imagine your conditions are lifted. So we sign a document stating that you're lifting maybe the inspection condition, or maybe there's an agreement with the seller with a few things that needs to be done. You have the letter from the bank that you send to the seller for them to sign, that they acknowledge reception of your financing that's been approved. And at that moment, when the conditions are lifted and everybody signed those documents, the property is sold for you officially. The last step that needs to be done is to go and sign the papers at the notary. But at the moment when it's completely sold for you, it disappears from Centris, so the public cannot see it anymore. And all the realtors who were maybe looking at it can see that sold, and they can even access the sold price, whatever's been agreed between you and the seller. At that moment, there's maybe only 2 weeks left before you go signing at the notary. 2 weeks being the minimum time that the notary needs to prepare the documents and all the paperwork to be signed. If this is the case and you only have 2 weeks, imagine, doing this during high season, you might have a hard time finding a notary. So the notary, you should be looking at one of them as soon as you have an offer accepted and you might need one. You should already be shopping for a notary. And when I say shopping, it's like you should call many notaries. Maybe you have one, but maybe he's not available. It happened to me that my notary was on vacation when I needed him. So you should be calling people around. You should check if they are available. You should tell them that it should be around those dates, and that you will know for sure in 2 weeks if it's closing or not. So, do that job, and be careful when it comes to the way that they're going to give you the information. Each notary has this way of telling you how much it costs and what's included. So make sure you ask the right question. What is included in the price? Is it tax included? Does it include the fact that they put it on the Registre Foncier? Does it include the fact that you want a virtual signing maybe? Make sure you ask all these questions. Then notary day arrives, and you're going to go twice to the notary. You're going to go the first time to sign the mortgage papers, and then a few days later to sign the deed of sale. Again, each notary works differently. It might be that the seller and the buyer are asked to be there together to sign those papers. Sometimes it's separate because COVID has made everything different for many notaries, and they each decide the way they want to deal with it. So do not be surprised. Just ask the notary prior to the signing how it's going to work, and he will explain you everything. When you get to the notary and you sign those papers, it is possible that you will get the keys right away at the notary. Maybe the property is already vacant and maybe they do not mind giving you the keys right away. Or maybe in the offer, it was stated that after signing, you will receive the keys maybe a few days later. When you get the keys, when it's officially your house, first thing you have to do is go into the house and check if all the inclusions are there. Why do I say it? Because it happens that maybe the seller forgot that the dishwasher was supposed to stay. He completely forgot that was part of the deal. Or maybe he decided to leave you a lot of appliances as a gift, but you do not want them because you do have appliances, you own one, and you do not want these things. So, whatever you find in the house, make sure you go through the original offer, the deal, make sure that the exclusions are taken care of. And if there were any inclusions, try them. Are they actually working? It won't be possible for you a month later to say, hey, I finally used a dishwasher and it's not working. How can you prove that you were not using it for an entire month and you broke it? So you'd better do it right away when you enter the house and you check that everything is in working condition. After that, you just can enjoy your house and do whatever you want with it. So these are my advice. We didn't go too much into details for each step of the buying process, such as what happens when an offer is actually sent to the seller, how much time he has to answer, what happens when we're in a counter offer situation, what happens when we're in a multiple offer situation. These things we can talk about them like in details if you have any questions. But for each step, I mean, there's so many things that could happen. So again, it's a case-by-case situation.
Well, great advice. And like I said in the beginning, buying your first home, it's exciting, but it's nerve-wracking at the same time. So hopefully for those of you who are watching, if you are planning on buying your first home, especially if you're planning on buying your first home sometime between now and next summer, which tends to be the most popular time, if you're looking to get a mortgage pre-approval, please feel free to reach out. If you are looking for a realtor or are currently shopping but don't have a realtor, I really, really encourage you to reach out and be represented. I'll have Natalie's coordinates in the closing outro. Natalie, thank you once again, as always, for being here with me. Of course, and going through this process. We just want to make it as easy as possible because it is nerve-wracking. Ask anyone who's purchased a home. It gets very tense, but this is also going to be your home where you might potentially be raising your family. And for most people, it's the single biggest purchase you're going to make in your life. So thank you once again, Natalie. And for anybody else who wants to reach out, our coordinates will be at the end. Feel free to contact us with any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.